Millionaire CEO hugged the wrong girl by mistake, but what she did next made him fall in love. It should have been just another day. Another train, another rush, another face in the crowd. But then he saw it. The yellow sweater, the purple backpack, and without thinking he reached out and hugged her. The wrong girl. She didn't laugh. She didn't scream. She turned, stared him dead in the eye, and hit him with her purse. And somehow, that's when it all began. Because some mistakes don't ruin your life. They save it. And sometimes, one wrong hug brings you to the right person, the hug that wasn't hers. The station was alive in the way only New York could be at rush hour. Loud, chaotic, pulsing with a kind of rhythm that had no sympathy for the unprepared. Phones buzzed, boots clattered against concrete, children cried, and somewhere, far off, a saxophone tried to compete with it all. William Smith didn't usually notice these things. He moved through life like he moved through boardrooms, swift, focused, untouchable. He was a man built of structure, navy suits, silence over sentiment, and appointments made down to the second. He did not pause, he did not panic, and he definitely did not hug strangers. But that day, something was different. He was late. His phone had died, his driver had bailed, and somewhere in this human hurricane was Emily, his younger sister, the only person who still made him laugh without trying, and the only family who hadn't traded affection for power. Yellow sweater, purple backpack, hair tied up, he muttered to himself, scanning the swarm of commuters like a soldier on reconnaissance. Where's she? Then, 30 feet ahead. Yellow. Purple. Bon. Just like she said. No hesitation. He cut through the crowd, dodging a man with a stroller, a woman balancing 3 coffee cups, and then, arms out. Full-bodied hug, sudden and uninvited. He picked her up off the ground like they were in some kind of movie. Got you, he said, swinging her side to side. You're late. Were you playing Uno with old ladies on the train again? But the girl in his arms didn't laugh. She froze, and when she twisted around, quick and sharp like an insult, he knew instantly this wasn't Emily. Her eyes were the first thing he saw, dark, clear, and so wide with rage they could cut glass. The purse hit him on the arm before he could finish an apology. Creep, she shouted, loud enough to hush a 5-foot radius. What the hell do you think you're doing? William stumbled back, arms raised like a man at gunpoint. Wait, hold on. You thought what? That I was handing out free hugs to men in $3,000 0-cent suits? I thought you were my sister. Oh, of course, because your sister wears a yellow sweater. What an original family uniform. She wasn't yelling, that was the thing. She was composed. Sarcastic, yes, but not panicked. It almost made it worse. She was making a scene with poise. William didn't know whether to be terrified or impressed. Okay, he said. You're right. That was insane. I messed up. I'm sorry. She crossed her arms. You always hug strangers from behind, or is that just your Wednesday hobby? I swear, I thought. Let me guess, your sister smells like lavender and sarcasm too? That one made him smile. He tried to hide it, but it snuck out. Just a flash. Around them, people slowed, watching like it was a live soap opera. A security guard hovered nearby, clearly waiting to see if he needed to intervene. Leia Perez didn't back down. She stared at him like she'd seen his type 100 times. Expensive watch, tailored coat, hair that never lost a battle. Your name, she said flatly. Let's start there, before I sue you. William Smith. Of course, you even have a rich guy name. I really am sorry. You just look like someone I care about. Leia tilted her head, finally relaxing her shoulders. Just a little. Then she smiled, and something in him stopped. Next time, she said, stepping back, maybe wait until the person turns around before you attack them with affection. Might help avoid lawsuits, or purse bruises. Duly noted. She turned to leave. A voice called out behind them. William! He spun around. There she was. Emily, yellow sweater, tied up hair, and no backpack. There you are. I got stopped by some lady who asked if I was in a soap opera." Leia paused at that. She looked back once, over her shoulder. William pointed at her sheepishly. "I thought she was you." Emily took one look at Leia, then at her brother and grinned. "Wow, she seems nice. You should date her." "I just tackled her, Em. That's not exactly a romantic start." Leia shook her head, smirking. "Don't show up at my wedding claiming it was love at first hug. You wouldn't dream of it." But he watched her go, purple backpack bouncing with every step, and something about the way she walked away made him wish she hadn't. Later, in the car, Emily nudged him. "You're going to dream about her tonight, aren't you?" William stared out the window, the echo of Leia's voice still rattling in his chest. "I already am." Chapter 1. The hug that wasn't hers. The station was pulsing with people. Lines of them, shoulders brushing, voices overlapping, luggage wheels rattling like bones across the tiled floor. Outside it was winter, but inside Grand Central, the heat of movement, of deadlines, of too much coffee and not enough patience, made everything blur. William Smith stood at the center of it all, unmoved. His suit was tailored, his coat folded perfectly over one arm, and his eyes, cold and exact, scanned the crowd with the practiced sharpness of a man used to finding what he wanted. Except today, what he wanted wasn't a merger or $1 million deal. It was his sister. He checked his watch. Platinum, inherited, and punctual. 3:03 p.m. She was late. Emily Smith was never late. Then again, she'd said something about bingo ladies and missed trains, something about a yellow sweater, a messy bun, and a purple backpack. William had only half listened, distracted by a glitch in a contract and a cappuccino that tasted more like regret than espresso. But now, through the mass of bodies in motion, he saw her. Bright yellow, purple strap, hair like a coiled storm. Gotcha. He moved with confidence, long strides, no second guessing. 30 feet, 20, 10. His arms opened like they had a mind of their own. "Got you," he grinned, wrapping her in a full embrace from behind. "You're late. Were you playing Uno with the train ladies again?" He spun her slightly like he used to when they were kids and Christmas morning felt like magic. But she didn't laugh. She stiffened. And then, slowly, she twisted in his arms, sharp and exact, and stared at him. It wasn't Emily. Not even close. This girl, this woman, had dark, serious eyes that sliced right through him. Her lips parted slightly, confusion giving way to rage in the space of one breath. "Are you out of your mind?" she snapped. William's arms dropped. "Wait. I thought..." But she was already reaching for her purse. The impact landed square on his bicep. It didn't hurt, but the message was clear. "Do you hug strangers for fun, or is this some new Manhattan greeting I missed the memo on?" "I'm sorry, I thought you were my sister." "Oh. Well, that makes it normal then." Hugging a woman from behind like a deranged Hallmark card. William took a slow breath. People were watching now. Phones hovered. A security guard started inching closer. "I made a mistake," he said calmly. "You're wearing the exact outfit she described. Yellow sweater, purple backpack, messy, bun." Leia Perez crossed her arms. "You just described half of Brooklyn." William wanted to laugh, but didn't dare. He had met his share of women. Models at rooftop events, heiresses at fundraisers, PR execs with perfect lipstick and even more perfect lies. But this woman? Her presence didn't ask to be noticed. It demanded it. Even now, even furious, she looked like she belonged to another world entirely. Real, sharp-edged, unimpressed by power. And for the first time in years, William Smith had no idea what to say. "Look," he offered. "You're right. That was wildly inappropriate. I acted without thinking." She raised an eyebrow. "Do you normally do that in three-piece suits? Attack women like you're handing out emotional trauma samples?" He blinked. "That was... clever." "No," he said slowly, "just... today." She studied him then, and something shifted. The anger didn't vanish, it calcified into curiosity. "You're not from here," she said, more statement than question. "I was born in the city." No, I mean you're not from here, not from this place, not from this mess. You're too polished. Your shoes are too quiet. He looked down. Italian leather, untouched by snow or sidewalk grime. You're observant. I plan events for a living, she said, stepping back. Or I used to. Not a lot of demand for sarcasm and hard truths in hospitality. A silence stretched between them. You have a name? She asked finally. William. Figures. And you? Leia. He nodded. Like the princess? No, she replied dryly. Like the woman who hits rich men with her purse when they get handsy in public? He chuckled. I'm serious, she added. Next time you try that with someone else, make sure she's not carrying a brick of compact powder and 3 months of rent receipts. Duly noted. Leia glanced toward the station entrance, her eyes softening as she saw someone. That's my mom. She started walking away, then paused. Just don't show up at my wedding someday, claiming it was love at first hug. I wouldn't dare. But she smiled. And that smile, crooked, reluctant, almost an afterthought, stayed with him long after she vanished into the crowd. Back in the car, William stared out the window as the city blurred past. His sister sat beside him, scrolling through something on her phone. She was cute, Emily said casually. She hit me with a purse, which means she has standards. You need that. I don't need anything. Emily smirked. Sure, that's why you're looking out the window like a character in a sad indie film. William didn't answer. Because she was right about everything. He didn't believe in fate, didn't believe in signs. But that hug, wrong as it was, had felt more real than anything in his life in months. And as the car turned onto Fifth Avenue, he knew 2 things for certain. 1, he wasn't going to forget Leia Perez. And 2, he really hoped she'd forgive him. Chapter 2, seen again in the flicker of a screen. William didn't believe in signs. Signs were for people who looked to the stars for answers, who bought crystals, who used phrases like, the universe has a plan. He believed in calendars, in market trends, in contracts that never left room for interpretation. And yet she kept showing up. It was supposed to be a normal Thursday night. 1 movie, 1 popcorn. No press, no clients, no father breathing down his neck about legacy and image. Just Emily, dragging him to a rom-com she promised would make him less emotionally constipated. They arrived late, of course. Emily had insisted on stopping at the bookstore across the street because a new poetry collection felt important to her emotional wellness. Now the line for concessions snaked around the lobby like a restless dragon. Be less suspicious, Emily whispered, elbowing him. You look like a bodyguard casing a Starbucks. I'm wearing sunglasses inside a movie theater, William muttered. Exactly. You're not blending in. You look like a spy with a hangover. William sighed, adjusting his coat. The sooner they got through the previews, the better. He scanned the crowd, avoiding eye contact. Until he saw her, 10 feet away, laughing. Same dark hair, same sharp eyes, a t-shirt with a sunflower print, and jeans that made her look like the entire world hadn't worn her down. Leia Perez. His stomach did something strange, like a hiccup followed by regret. And hope. Emily, he hissed, ducking slightly behind his wallet. His sister followed his line of sight and gasped like she'd seen a ghost. No way. Don't look. She's right there. Emily. It's her. Purse girl. Leia turned. For one moment, their eyes locked. Recognition flared across her face, followed by a slow, amused smile. Oh God, William muttered. Leia walked toward them, sipping her soda with an infuriating level of grace. Well, she said, if it isn't the human hug machine. William took off his sunglasses, defeated. Leia? You stalking me now? I swear this was an accident. You sure? You didn't plant a GPS tracker in my backpack? He smiled despite himself. Technically, you hit me with the backpack. Surprising strength, I might add. Leia's friend, a curly-haired woman with giant earrings, strolled over, eyes wide. Is this the guy? The serial hugger? William blinked. Wait, you told people? Mel tells everyone, Leia replied. including things I never said. I never said you smelled like money, Mel said with a grin. That was my own observation. Leia elbowed her. Please stop. Emily stepped forward. Hi, I'm Emily. I was the intended hug target, in case anyone's still confused. Mel shook her hand. I'm Mel, unofficial bodyguard and chaos enabler. Are you two watching the same movie? Emily asked, trying too hard to sound casual. Leia hesitated. We were going to. Emily lit up. You should sit with us. William opened his mouth to object, but it was too late. Mel linked arms with Emily. Let's go. Secret club. Embarrass William in public. Leia looked at him. You in? He could have said no. Could have walked away, pretended the universe wasn't laughing at him, again. But something in her eyes, something sharp, real, made him nod. I'm in. The theater was dim, cool, and smelled of melted butter and distant nachos. They took their seats, Leia beside William, separated only by a shared armrest. The preview started. A trailer for a dramatic film about a pianist and an artist played. Then came the rom-com. A clumsy man spills coffee on a stranger who turns out to be his soulmate. Very subtle choice, Emily, William muttered. I don't know what you mean, she whispered, popping popcorn into her mouth. Midway through the film, during the kiss scene, Leia's arm brushed against his. Neither moved. It wasn't much, but William felt the contact like electricity under his skin. At the end of the movie, they spilled out into the city night like people exiting a dream. The buzz of taxis, distant music from a street performer, the flash of neon, New York in its favorite costume. Mel checked her phone. We should grab a bite. Emily nodded. There's a place around the corner. Somehow, they all ended up at a cozy diner tucked beneath a red awning. The lighting was warm, the table sticky in that familiar way only diners ever mastered. They slid into a booth, Leia across from William. So, Mel said, stabbing a fry with purpose. William, what do you do? Other than hugging random women in public spaces. Emily smirked. Leia just sipped her milkshake. I'm in hotels, William said carefully. Leia raised an eyebrow. Like housekeeping? Like ownership. Mel nearly choked. You're that William Smith? Leia's milkshake straw froze mid-sip. William kept his expression calm. Yeah. Smith Hotels? Leia repeated. He nodded. Well, Mel said, okay, rich boy. Leia looked away, suddenly quiet. Emily leaned in. He's less annoying than he looks. Sometimes. Leia forced a smile. Good to know. They moved on, talking about childhood dreams, embarrassing family stories, bad dates. Leia mentioned the time she planned a city councilman's son's birthday party, which ended in blue glitter and a baking soda volcano disaster. William laughed harder than he had in weeks. We're actually hiring, he said casually. You should send your resume. Leia shook her head. And put hugged CEO by mistake? Under special skills? He leaned forward. Could be a competitive edge. Mel and Emily exchanged knowing looks. When the check came, Mel and Emily mysteriously left to look at dessert displays, leaving William and Leia alone in the booth. They're not subtle, Leia said. No, William agreed. They're not. She stirred her milkshake slowly. That job offer, was it serious? Yes, and also not a pickup line. She looked at him for a long beat. Good, because I need a job, but working for you? That would be weird. He smiled. Think of it as future material for embarrassing stories. She laughed. All right, I'll send my resume. He handed her a card. This is my assistant's contact. Just say you're the one with the yellow sweater and the deadly purse. Leia pocketed it. You're lucky I didn't aim for your face. William grinned. I know. As they stood to leave, their hands brushed for a moment too long. Neither pulled away. See you Monday then, she said, looking forward to it. As she walked into the night, backpack slung over one shoulder, William watched her go, half in disbelief, half in something he didn't have a name for yet. Emily reappeared, waving a receipt. Well? She's sending her resume. Emily beamed. You're gonna dream about her again, huh? William looked up at the moonlight spilling across the sidewalk. I never stopped. Chapter 3. Dinner with no agenda. Leia stood outside Bellini, a sleek glass-paneled restaurant nestled between a high-rise and a flower shop that had somehow survived 3 recessions. She checked the text again. Team alignment dinner. Casual, 8 p.m. William. She should've known. No assistant, no HR rep, no team. Just William, already seated, waiting by the window. The host smiled like he knew something she didn't. Miss Perez. Leia blinked. How do you... Right this way, Mr. Smith is expecting you. Of course he is. The restaurant was all hushed lighting and white linen. Couples murmured over wine. Businessmen discussed acquisitions in low, practiced voices. And there he was. William Smith. Unmistakable. Alone at a candlelit table, no laptop, no phone, just a pressed navy shirt, and a look that said he'd been waiting exactly long enough to seem casual. Leia hesitated before walking over. "This your version of a team meeting?" she asked, sliding into the seat across from him. He smiled. "I did say casual. There's nothing casual about lobster ravioli and a sommelier with cufflinks. I wanted to talk without distractions." She raised an eyebrow. "So the actual job is?" "Real," he replied. "Events assistant. You'd manage logistics for our high-profile clients. Galas, launch parties, board retreats. And this dinner? Also real," he said, "but maybe a little selfish too." Leia leaned back, folding her arms. "So, I'm both a candidate and a curiosity?" William paused, then said carefully, "You're different." I wanted to understand that. Leia considered walking out right then, but something in his voice, careful quiet, made her stay. "I'm not a mystery, William," she said. "I'm a girl from Queens who plans parties, owes her landlord 3 weeks' rent, and eats cereal for dinner." He didn't laugh. He didn't flinch. He just listened. "That makes you more interesting," he said. Leia rolled her eyes, but couldn't stop the tiny smile tugging at her lips. "You're either very sincere or very practiced." "I'm both," he admitted. "But with you, I'm a little off balance. That's rare." She watched him, uncertain. There was a rhythm to this man, controlled, smooth, but tonight something frayed at the edges. "What about you?" she asked. "What's the story behind the expensive suit and accidental public affection?" He took a sip of water. "Smith Hotels is my family's legacy. I took over when I was 26. My father got sick. I didn't have a choice." "That's not an answer." "It's a beginning," he said. Leia leaned in. "Do you even like it, running the empire?" "I like building things, but sometimes it feels like living someone else's blueprint." "That's honest," she said, surprised. He shrugged. "You hit me with a purse. The least I can do is be honest." They ordered, he let her pick, and she chose the cheapest pasta on the menu just to make a point. Halfway through the meal, something shifted. He told her about his mother, a painter who left when he was 8, chasing a life that didn't fit the Smith family mold. She told him about her father, a contractor who worked himself into the ground trying to make ends meet, and how she still kept one of his measuring tapes in her coat pocket. They talked about everything and nothing. Favorite films. Worse first dates. Why the smell of cinnamon made her feel safe. Why he hated elevators. He laughed more than she expected. So did she. It didn't feel like a job interview. It felt like something else. By dessert, Leia was leaning on the table with her chin in her hand, laughing about a bridal expo gone wrong, and a 6-foot-tall cake collapse that ended with her in whipped cream and silence from a very important bride. "You're good at this," William said quietly. "At making a fool of myself, at handling chaos with grace." Leia studied him. "You're different than I expected." "So are you." Silence settled between them, but it was comfortable now, not awkward, just present. "Why me?" she asked. "Why not some seasoned exec from your inner circle?" He didn't hesitate. "Because when everything went wrong, you didn't flinch. You cracked a joke, you took control. That's what this job needs." "And the dinner?" "That's what I need." Her breath caught for just a second. "I'm still sending my resume," she said. "I'll read it thoroughly." As they stood to leave, he offered to walk her home. She declined, politely. "Too soon." But just before she turned to go, she stopped. "Thanks," she said softly, "for dinner, and for seeing more than the sweater." He smiled. It was a good sweater. She smirked. "Next time, don't hug me before the appetizers." And then she walked away, heels clicking against the sidewalk, hair catching in the wind. William watched her go. No contract, no strategy. Just a feeling that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't business anymore. Chapter 4. Rumors in the Elevator. By week 2, everyone in the Smith Hotel's building knew her name. Leia Perez. The girl with the clipboard, the 2 honest questions, and the laugh that echoed through the break room like it belonged to someone who hadn't read the memo that this office was a museum of tension. She moved through the hallways with a coffee in one hand and a tablet in the other, updating RSVP lists, adjusting lighting specs, and charming grumpy vendors into dropping fees. Most of the staff liked her. Some loved her. One very important person did not. Natalie Parker, the director of marketing, master of appearances, rumored something to William Smith. She noticed Leia on day 1. On day 3, she said it out loud. "Where did you even find her?" William didn't look up from his laptop. "At a train station. It's a long story." Natalie smiled, tight-lipped. "So's her resume." He closed the file. "You read it? I like to know who's taking up our airspace." William leaned back in his chair. "She's qualified. More than—" Natalie tilted her head. "Or you're just distracted by a pretty face and a messy bun." The air chilled. "I suggest you focus on your department," he said. She did not mention it again, but the damage had already started. It began with glances. Whispers when Leia passed the glass, conference rooms, pauses when she entered the elevator. At first, she thought she was imagining it. Maybe it was the new girl effect. Maybe it was her sneakers on marble floors. Or the way she didn't wear beige. Then came the note. Left on her desk, folded neatly, no signature. "No one climbs that fast without sleeping with someone. Watch your step." Leia read it once, then again. She didn't cry. She didn't rip it up. She folded it in half again and slid it into her purse, like a receipt she might return to later. That afternoon, she ran into William in the elevator. Alone. The silver doors closed with a soft chime. He looked tired. Not the rich kind of tired that came with spa days and deadlines, but the kind that crept behind the eyes. "Hey," he said, voice quiet. "Hey," she replied, without looking at him. Something passed between them. An invisible tension, like 2 magnets, unsure which way to lean. "You okay?" he asked after a pause. Leia took a breath. "People are talking. About? You. Me. Us. The fact that I got hired and promoted fast. That I get private meetings with the CEO. William stiffened. "It's none of their business. It is when I'm the one getting judged." He turned toward her. "If someone's bothering you—" "They're not bothering me," she cut in. "They're discrediting me. Quietly. Constantly." He didn't speak. Leia laughed bitterly. "You don't get it, do you? Try me." She faced him now, eyes sharp. "When you walk into a room, people stop talking out of respect. When I do, they stop talking out of suspicion. I didn't mean for this to happen." "I know," she said. "But it did." The elevator dinged. Her floor. She stepped out, then turned back. "Maybe we need space until people forget why they started talking in the first place." Before he could respond, the doors closed between them. Back at her desk, she found herself staring at the flowers someone had sent the reception desk. White orchids, classy, unapologetic. She thought about quitting. Then she thought about rent. Then she thought about Mel, who would throttle her for giving up a salary with benefits because of a few whispers and a designer suit with unresolved tension. That night, she sat on her fire escape in Queens with a warm beer and the city lights in her lap. She thought about the hug, the accident that wasn't really an accident. She remembered the way his eyes softened when she talked about her dad, and the way he never, not once, tried to make her feel less than. But even still, she was the one bleeding under the smiles, the one picking herself up in heels that didn't fit this world. Inside his penthouse, William stared at the wall of windows and tried to work. But her voice lived in the room now, and no amount of silence could drown it out. Chapter 5. The Interview That Broke Her. The email came at 6:13 a.m. Subject line: Meeting with Mr. Richard Smith. 10:00 a.m. Mandatory. No salutation, no explanation, just an address and a time. Leia reread it 3 times. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, ready to ask for clarification, but she stopped. This wasn't a request. It was a summons. She wore her cleanest blazer, tamed her curls, walked into the elevator like a soldier to a war she didn't choose. The 37th floor was different. No one smiled here. The receptionist's voice was soft, almost reverent, like even her syllables had to pass quality control. Mr. Smith will see you now. Leia stepped into the boardroom and into the eye of a storm wearing a 3-piece suit. Richard Smith. He didn't stand, didn't offer a handshake. His hair was steel gray, his cufflinks were probably older than her, and his eyes didn't match William's. Not exactly, but they held the same sharpness. Just cold. Ms. Perez, he said, gesturing to the seat across from him. She sat. He opened a folder, slowly, like it hurt. You're very popular these days, he said, not looking at her. Everyone's whispering about the girl from nowhere who made it to the 20th floor in 2 weeks. Leia didn't blink. And now, he continued, I receive anonymous emails, photos, speculations. One of my junior staff caught you and my son in the break room, laughing. We were talking. And yesterday, on the terrace? Leaning too close? We were reviewing the gala floor plan. He looked up now. Really looked. Ms. Perez, you're not on trial. Not officially. But let's not pretend optics don't matter. Leia clenched her fists under the table. I've worked hard, she said evenly. I've met every deadline, outperformed projections. I earned this. He didn't raise his voice. That was the worst part. He just smiled. A pretty girl from a modest zip code suddenly landing in the CEO's inner circle tends to raise questions. Leia leaned forward. If I were a man, would we be having this conversation? If you were a man, Richard replied, you wouldn't be the distraction my son can't seem to let go of. Silence thickened between them. William will inherit this company, he said after a long pause. He needs someone beside him who understands that the stakes are bigger than infatuation. She met his gaze, unflinching. You mean someone like Natalie Parker? He gave a humorless chuckle. Someone who understands the rules. You, CEOCinderellaStories, don't seem to. I understand them, Leia said. I just don't think I was made to follow them. Richard closed the folder. You're a smart girl, which is why I'm giving you a choice. Walk away now, quietly, with dignity, or stay and watch everything you've built be reduced to whispers and rumors and passive sabotage. I don't scare easy. That's admirable, but this isn't about fear, it's about longevity. The door opened behind them. William? He froze when he saw her. Dad, he said carefully. What's this? A conversation. With my employee? With your complication. Leia stood. William crossed the room in 2 strides. Did he threaten you? I'm fine, she said, but her voice cracked. Leia. I said, I'm fine. Richard rose at last. You see? This is what happens when we blur lines. She's not the problem, William snapped. You are. The tension snapped like glass under pressure. Enough, Leia said, stepping back. This isn't a boardroom battle. This is my life. She turned to William. I told you people were talking. I didn't know it would reach him. But it did. She faced Richardi one last time. Thank you for the clarity. Then she walked out. No tears, no shaking. Just quiet steps, in heels, that sounded too loud for a hallway full of glass. William caught up to her by the elevator. Leia, please. She turned. Her eyes were red but fierce. You didn't stand up for me fast enough. I didn't know You should have known. He stepped closer. I can fix this. She shook her head. It's already broken. Then let me try. I can't, she whispered. because I don't know if I can survive being your complication, not again. The elevator dinged. She stepped in. He didn't follow, and that, more than anything, broke her heart. Back home, Leia opened her laptop and drafted her resignation. She didn't overthink it. It's 3 lines. Subject, resignation. Effective immediately. Thank you for the opportunity. I wish the team well. Leia Perez. She hit send. And then she stared at the screen like it might offer a map to a life that no longer made sense. Her phone buzzed. William, please, don't leave like this. Don't give up on us. She typed, then deleted. Typed again. Deleted again. Eventually, she powered off her phone. Because no message could undo what was already done. Chapter 6. The silence that said everything. The apartment was too quiet. Leia sat on her kitchen floor, legs pulled to her chest, surrounded by half-packed boxes she didn't need to pack. She wasn't going anywhere. But somehow, staying felt just as uncertain. She hadn't left the apartment in 3 days. She wore the same sweater twice, her inbox filled with unread emails. Interview request, subscription spam. We're sorry to see you go from Smith Hotels HR. What she didn't receive anything from William. Not a call, not a text, not even an email from a proxy. The silence screamed louder than any argument ever could. Leia told herself this was what she wanted, a clean break. No more whispers, no more elevator glances, no more being reduced to a rumor in someone else's building. And yet, every time her phone buzzed, her heart leapt before her brain reminded it not to. William stared at the skyline from his penthouse window, the same view he used to love. Now it just felt like a cage with a prettier backdrop. He hadn't returned to the office in days. Emily called twice. Natalie texted him once. His father left a voicemail he didn't open. None of it mattered. He had let Leia walk away. Worse, he had watched her leave. The day after her resignation, he'd drafted a message a dozen times. Leia, I didn't protect you and I'm sorry. Leia, I want to fix this. Please let me try. Leia, I haven't stopped thinking about you since the moment I hugged you by mistake. Delete, delete, delete. He opened his notes app, stared at a blank page, and typed. What's the right thing when the right thing is also the thing that hurts? And then, just beneath it, why does it hurt most when I do nothing? He didn't send either. Mel showed up at Leia's door on day 4, holding 2 pints of Ben & Jerry's and judgment in her eyes. Okay, she said, tossing her bag on the couch. Let's talk about the fact that you're living in a season finale montage. Leia said nothing. Mel popped open a pint and handed her a spoon. Are you miserable? Leia hesitated, then nodded once. Then why aren't you calling him? Because he didn't fight, Leia whispered. Not when it counted. Mel sighed. Maybe he didn't know how. I don't need someone who doesn't know how. Are you sure? Mel asked softly. Or are you scared that if he did fight, you'd have to admit you want him too much? Leia didn't answer. Because Mel was right. On the 6th day, a knock came at her door. She expected a delivery. Maybe a neighbor. What she found was a small package. No label, no note, just her name, written in familiar handwriting. Inside, a smartphone. On it, a single message stuck to the screen. Press play. Leia's hands trembled as she opened the voice recorder. William's voice filled the silence. Leia, if you're hearing this, I guess Emily convinced you to open the box. I wanted to say this face to face, but you deserve more than awkward stares and bad timing. I didn't fight hard enough for you, and I see that now. You were brave when I wasn't, honest when I couldn't be, and I let my silence speak louder than my heart. But the truth is, hugging you by mistake was the best thing I've ever done. Because even in that moment, I felt something change. Not because you were beautiful or funny or real, but because, for the first time in a long time, I felt seen. If there's still a chance, even a small one, I'll be at the cafe in Central Park, tomorrow, 6 p.m. If you come, I know I didn't lose you. If you don't, I'll understand. And I'll disappear. No questions, no expectations, just each and every one of you. For Mr. Beersley, what you're doing is more beautiful mistake of my life." The recording ended. Leia sat there for a full minute, phone pressed to her chest, heart racing like it had somewhere urgent to be. The next day, William sat at the back table of the cafe by the lake, nerves tangled in his throat. He ordered coffee, didn't drink it. She checked the time, 5:52, then 5:58, then 6:01. Every footstep made him lift his head. And then she came, wearing the same yellow sweater. Not because she had to, but because she remembered. He stood slowly, afraid to speak, afraid even to breathe. Leia stopped a few feet from him, her eyes soft and cautious. "I almost didn't come," she said. "I would have waited anyway," he replied. She looked down at her hands. "I was scared. So was I." A pause, a long one. As she looked up, "I missed you," she whispered. He stepped forward. "I never stopped missing you." She let him hold her hand. And in that silence, finally, everything made sense. Chapter 7. She came back to save him. The Grand Plaza Hotel shimmered like a crown jewel under Manhattan's velvet night sky. Outside, photographers buzzed. Inside, champagne flowed. And at the center of it all stood William Smith, composed, calculating, and completely alone. The annual Smith Hotel's Investor Gala was more than a party. It was theater. And tonight, the stage was set for perfection. Until it all fell apart. At precisely 7:46 p.m., the lights flickered once. Then again. And then, they died. Darkness swallowed the ballroom. Gasps filled the air. Wine glasses clinked against marble as conversations fractured into panic. Generators didn't hum. Air conditioning stuttered. And no one, not a single polished manager or clipboard-carrying assistant, seemed to know what to do. William stepped away from a confused investor and looked toward the tech booth. Vacant. His jaw clenched. He reached for his phone. No service in the ballroom's core. And that's when he heard her voice. Clear, steady, calm. "Ladies and gentlemen, please stay calm. Emergency protocols are in place. You are safe." "Leia." He turned toward the sound, his breath catching like it had found something it didn't realize it was holding out for. There she was, dressed in all black, hair tied back, radio in one hand, flashlight in the other. Not a guest, not a date. A caterer. She hadn't come back for the company. She'd come back to work. And to lead. Leia didn't see William at first. She was too busy handing candles to servers, redirecting tray paths, and instructing the pianist to play acoustically in the West Wing, where moonlight still crept through the arched windows. The generator wasn't responding, but the backup batteries in the hallway would hold. Air circulation would be back in 5. The VIPs were being moved to the terrace. She was everywhere. Everywhere the real staff should have been. And no one questioned her, because she sounded like someone in charge. Most because she was. When she finally turned and caught William's eyes, she stopped. Just for a second. But it was enough. He moved toward her slowly, as if afraid too much movement might send her vanishing again. "You're here," he said softly. "I was already on the team," she replied, half smiling. "Just catering this time." His voice lowered. "You saved this event." She glanced around. "Not yet. But give me 20 minutes. Leia." He paused, then whispered, "We'll talk after, okay?" He nodded, stepping back. Letting her lead. 30 minutes later, the light hummed to life. Air returned. Applause followed. And in the wake of what could have been disaster, the mood became celebratory. Yes, toasted resilience. Someone called it the most thrilling gala they'd ever attended. William climbed the stage, tapped the mic. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice steady. "On behalf of Smith Hotels, thank you for your grace this evening. And thank you to the staff who kept things running, especially one woman who turned chaos into calm." He searched the crowd, found her near the back, trying to retreat behind a decorative column. "Leia Perez," he said, "please come up here." A spotlight found her. Leia froze. then slowly, hesitantly walked to the stage. William offered his hand. She took it, unsure. Facing the crowd, he spoke, not just with authority, but with something raw in his voice. "Miss Perez was once part of our company," he said. "She should have never stopped being." A murmur ran through the crowd. "And if I may say something personal," he added, turning to her, "sometimes life gives us second chances, dressed as disasters." Leia's throat tightened. "She was my wrong hug, and still the most right thing that's ever happened to me." Gasps, then silence. "I didn't fight for her before, but I am now, in front of everyone." He turned to face her completely. "Leia, you changed everything. Not with a resume, not with a title, but with who you are." He didn't ask a question. He didn't beg for forgiveness. He just stood there, open, exposed, letting the entire world see what she had seen in private. Leia blinked back tears. "Ed, that was incredibly unprofessional," she whispered. A pause. Then, "Fire me." Laughter broke the tension. And then, softly, sweetly, she kissed him. The ballroom erupted in applause. And in the back row, even Richard Smith stood and clapped. Leia didn't see him, but she felt something shift. Something bigger than pride. Something like acceptance. Later, when the guests had all gone home and the hotel glowed in the soft afterlight of celebration, Leia stood beside William on the empty dance floor. Her heels dangled from one hand. His jacket rested over her shoulders. "You really told the entire hospitality industry about the hug." He grinned. "I left out the purse attack. Trying to protect your reputation." "You mean mine or yours?" She turned to him. "Why now, William?" "Because I realized something," he said, brushing her hair back. "I don't want a life built on silence. I want one built on someone who tells the truth, even when it hurts, especially then." Leia swallowed hard. "Good," she said, "because I've got a lot of truth. Give me all of it." She leaned into him, heart steady now. Maybe love didn't always come with fanfare. Sometimes. Chapter 8. The CEO and the girl with a backpack. It was just a bench in Central Park. Old, wooden, carved with initials of strangers who once sat where they now did. The air smelled like spring, the kind of warmth that carried laughter between strangers and promises between almost lovers. Letter wore the same yellow sweater, not for nostalgia, for closure. William brought coffee, not from some trendy third-wave spot, but from the street vendor 2 blocks away, because she once told him that cheap coffee was honest. No froth, no pretense, just hidden truth. "I keep thinking," Leia said softly, eyes on the lake, "about that first hug." William glanced over, waiting. "I wasn't angry because of the hug," she added. "I was angry because no one ever looked for me like that before. Not even by mistake." He didn't speak. He let the silence breathe. "I've always been the one to chase," she said. "Clients, jobs, rent, stability. I got used to never being the one worth turning around for." William reached over, gently, just enough to touch her hand. "But I did turn around," he said. "I know." A long pause. Then Leia smiled, quiet and slow. "You're better in chaos, and it's a good thing we're not normal." They sat for a while, watching a boy toss breadcrumbs to pigeons and an elderly couple shuffle by holding hands. "I'm not coming back to the company," Leia said finally. "I know. I need to build something of my own, my rules, my risk." "I want that for you," William said. She looked at him, really looked. "And you?" He exhaled slowly. "I've spent my whole life being what I was supposed to be. The suit, the surname, the strategy. But I keep thinking about the guy who hugged a stranger in a train station." She laughed. "That guy had no idea what he was starting." "Made his first mistake," William said, smiling, "and he's never been more grateful." Later, in his brownstone, the one no one knew he lived in except Emily and his lawyer, they cooked pasta. Badly. Leia set off the smoke alarm, trying to toast breadcrumbs. William dropped a wooden spoon into the boiling water and fished it out with salad tongs. It was chaos. and it was perfect. After dinner, she walked barefoot across the hardwood floor, glass of wine in hand, studying the few photos on his bookshelf. "Is this your mom?" she asked. William came up beside her. "Yeah. She looks free." Pain was. Too much, maybe. Leia turned. "And your father?" "Learning how to let go. But he's trying." "Because of you?" He nodded. "Because of you." They talked late into the night. About nothing. About everything. About how they both liked storms. About how she once sold bracelets on Etsy to cover her Wi-Fi bill. About how he sometimes drove around the city just to feel lost. At some point he reached for her hand. And the quiet that followed wasn't silence. It was safety. At the window, long after midnight, Leia looked out over the city that once made her feel small. Now it just looked like a place where anything could begin. Behind her, William leaned in, wrapped his arms around her waist. "You still carry that purple backpack?" he whispered. She smiled. "No, I kind of miss it." "I don't," she replied. "It made my shoulder hurt." He kissed the space between her neck and shoulder. And in that tiny moment, no audience, no pressure, Leia felt something fall into place. Not because he saved her, but because he never asked her to be less, just to fit beside him. Chapter 9. Purses and Promises. The morning sun filtered through the willow trees, casting dappled light across rows of wooden chairs and wildflower arrangements. No orchestra, no chandelier, no $1,000 floral walls. Just a garden, a handful of people, and a bride who once hit her groom with a purse. Leia stood in front of the mirror in a small, sunlit room. Her dress was simple, ivory silk, no glitter, no lace. Just the kind of dress a woman would wear if she wanted to feel like herself and nothing more. Mel adjusted her hair with expert fingers. "You ready?" Leia took a shaky breath. "No." Mel grinned. "Perfect. That means it's real." Emily burst in without knocking, holding 2 glasses of champagne. "The groom's on his 3rd attempt at tying his tie. We may have to step in." Leia laughed, nerves breaking. "Sounds about right." She reached for the tiny handkerchief her mother had mailed her from Queens. Her grandmother's initials were embroidered into the corner. LP. Leia Perez. Legacy and Beginning. In the garden, William stood beside a white arbor draped in linen, running a hand through his hair for the 10th time. Mark, his best man and childhood friend, smirked beside him. "You look like you're waiting for a boardroom ambush." "I feel like I am." "You want to run?" William paused. "Every part of me that used to be afraid is gone." Mark raised an eyebrow. "That's one way to say I'm in love." William smiled. "It's the only way I know." Guests began to settle. There weren't many, 20, maybe 30. Mostly family, close friends, and a few loyal employees who had become something more than staff. Leia's mom cried softly in the second row. Emily passed her tissues like it was a reflex. And then the music started. Not a grand composition, just a soft instrumental version of Can't Help Falling in Love. A song Leia had once hummed under her breath while planning a children's space-themed birthday. William turned, and there she was. Yellow flowers in her bouquet, barefoot in the grass, hair pinned back with the simplicity of someone who never needed a crown to know her worth. He couldn't breathe. She walked toward him slowly, steadily, not like a bride walking into a fairy tale, but like a woman walking toward a life she had chosen for herself. "Dearly beloved," the officiant began, "we're gathered not because tradition tells us to, but because 2 people made a mistake that turned out to be exactly right." Laughter rippled through the crowd. Leia blushed. William beamed. "The vows." Leia went first. "I used to think love was about arriving. About someone choosing you because you were finally enough. But then you hugged me before you even knew who I was. And that moment, reminded me that love isn't earned. It's recognized." She glanced at him, voice soft. "You recognized me, even before I recognized myself. I promise to never let you forget how rare that is." William cleared his throat, eyes shining. "My vow is simple," he said. "I promise to always act without thinking when it comes to loving you. Because thinking never would have led me to that moment in the train station, and thinking might have talked me out of the best mistake I've ever made." Leia's eyes brimmed. The officiant smiled. Then, by the power vested in me, by the state of New York and a particularly persistent younger sister, you may kiss the bride. And he did. Long, sweet, the kind of kiss that didn't try to prove anything, the kind that simply said, "I'm home." At the reception, under twinkle lights and mason jar candles, Leia stood to make a toast. She clinked her glass. Some of you know how we met. If not, ask someone. It's a great story. It involves confusion, sarcasm, and a very violent handbag. The crowd laughed. She continued, "We live in a world that teaches us to wait for love to be perfect. But I think it's better when it's weird, when it's accidental, when it shows up completely unannounced, dressed in a suit at a train station, and mistakes you for someone else." She raised her glass. "With the wrong hug that brought me the right person." Later, as the night wound down, William found her sitting barefoot on a wooden swing, heels forgotten in the grass. He sat beside her. "No runaway guests?" she asked. "Just one runaway dog. Mark's." She laughed. He took her hand. "I still can't believe you forgave me." Leia leaned her head on his shoulder. "You didn't ask for forgiveness. You earned trust, and that matters more." He looked down at her. "I love you," he whispered. "I love you more," she whispered back. "But if you ever hug another woman at a train station, I will hit you again." He smiled. Promise? Chapter 10. From a Hug to Forever. The morning after the wedding smelled like French toast and rain. Not the dramatic kind, just the soft drizzle that washed confetti from sidewalks and made the world look brand new. Leia stood barefoot in the kitchen of their quiet brownstone, William's dress shirt hanging loose around her as she flipped pancakes with one hand and held her coffee with the other. Her ring caught the light. It was simple. Gold. Understated. But it gleamed like it knew it belonged. William shuffled in, hair wild, tie still hanging from the day before. "You're making breakfast?" Leia smirked. "Don't sound so shocked." "I didn't think newlyweds cooked," he murmured, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "I thought we just stared at each other and whispered sweet nothings for at least 72 hours. Leia tilted her head. "I'd whisper something sweet, but I'd burn the pancakes. I'll take that risk." She turned in his arms and kissed him, softly, slowly. This kiss wasn't about beginnings. It was about what came next. After brunch, they wandered through the neighborhood in raincoats and boots, stopping for fresh bagels and passing a flea market where Leia bought a second-hand teacup just because. William carried the paper bag like it was crystal. They passed the train station. The exact one. She stopped. He followed her gaze. "Want to go in?" he asked. "No," she whispered. "I just want to remember." He didn't ask what she meant, because he knew. 1 year later, their home was louder now, filled with life and voices and the gentle chaos of building something together. Leia's event company, Kindred Plans, had grown into a boutique agency that made weddings feel like real-life poetry. No copy-paste, no filters. Is love. Real love. The kind that starts messy and grows honest. She still worked too late, still left coffee cups in every room, still listened to the same acoustic playlist on repeat when she worked. And William? He finally stopped wearing a tie on Sundays. He took over the company, but on his terms. He installed a wellness policy for employees, hired a team that didn't care about pedigrees, promoted a part-time intern to full-time with benefits because she reminded him of a girl who once planned a children's party with blue glitter and panic in her eyes. On Fridays, he turned his phone off. On Saturdays, he made Leia laugh so hard she forgot the world used to feel lonely. One night, as rain kissed the windows, Leia curled into his chest on the couch. "You remember what you said to me the night you sent me the phone?" He smiled against her hair. "Every word. I think about that moment a lot." "Why? Because I almost didn't show up?" He held her tighter. "But you did." She tilted her face up to meet his gaze. "Do you think love is really fate or just timing?" "I think," he said gently, "it's both." He ran his fingers down her arm. But mostly, it's about choosing. Every single day. She nodded slowly. Then, I choose you. Even when I mess up? Especially then. Even when I get distracted and forget the milk? Leia laughed. That's the real test. They were quiet for a while. Then she whispered, "Do you regret anything?" He shook his head. "Not even hugging the wrong girl." William kissed her temple. "You were never the wrong girl," he said. "Just the right one showing up early. The best mistakes lead us home. They say love arrives with fireworks, with fate, with the perfect moment. But the truth is, love rarely asks permission. Sometimes it shows up uninvited, in a crowded train station, wearing a yellow sweater and a backpack full of responsibilities. Sometimes it knocks the wind out of you, not with passion, but with timing. Terrible, impossible, beautiful timing. William and Leia didn't find each other in a fairy tale. They collided in a mistake. One hug, one misstep, one moment of reaching for someone and finding someone else entirely. And maybe that's the point. Because the best love stories, they don't start with perfection. They start with interruption. What made their story unforgettable wasn't the wealth. It wasn't the empire. It wasn't the apology or the second chance. It was the choice to stay, to try, to love each other in the mess, not despite it, but because of it. Leia never stopped being the girl who planned parties and carried too much on her shoulders. And William never stopped being the man who lived by rules until one day someone broke through them with a purse and a truth he didn't know he was waiting to hear. They didn't need to change to be loved. They just needed to be seen. And once they were truly seen, they never looked away again. If you've made it this far, maybe you believe in love like this too. Not the polished kind. The real kind. The kind that forgives. The kind that fights. The kind that begins with a mistake and ends with someone whispering, "I'd do it all over again just to find you." If this story touched something in you, some quiet ache, some secret hope, we'd love to hear it. Share your favorite moment in the comments. Tell us about your version of a wrong hug that turned into something more. And wherever you are, whoever you are, may you be found by someone who chooses you. Every day, every flaw, every heartbeat. Even if it starts with the wrong name. Even if they have no idea what they're doing. Even if it begins in the middle of your busiest, messiest, most unremarkable day. Because love, it doesn't care how the story starts. Only that it's real when it ends. Did this story remind you of something you've lived? Something you've lost? Something you're still waiting for? We're listening. Leave a comment below. And until the next story, thank you for believing in love with us.